כן, יש דף מקורות, יש. איפה הדף מקורות?
Hi everyone. Sorry I'm late. I apologize. I just want to. We were just told a few hours ago that one of our neighbors in Alon Shvut was hurt very badly in Lebanon, and they asked to daven for him. He's Mordam V'Munsham, Kiat Rosh. I know he's not a kid, but he's a chayal from Alon Shvut, from our neighbors. His name is Yishai Nitanel ben Sarah Tova.
Again, please.
Yishai Nitanel ben Sarah Tova. Yishai Nitanel. Tov. I would like to start and learn a little bit about the characteristics of Erev Yom Kippur. We talk a lot about Yom Kippur as a day of Mechila, Slicha, Tfilah, a day of Vidui, Piyutim, Slichot. Erev Yom Kippur is a little bit of a strange day in the sense that it's obviously not a Yom Tov, but I think we all treat it a little bit differently. If I'm not mistaken, I didn't look it up, but the Gemara says that, I think Rabbi Akiva, that there were 2 days that he used to come home early from the Best Midrash. It was Erev Pesach and Erev Yom Kippur. Why Erev Yom Kippur? Erev Pesach, I understand. You got to get the chametz and the matzah, everything ready. What is there so much to prepare for Yom Kippur? Oh, so we know that one of the most important mitzvot of the year that people like to machmir on, right, is the mitzvah of eating Erev Yom Kippur. And I would like to learn together with you about the mitzvah of eating Erev Yom Kippur, whether or not this is just like many other mitzvot, another mitzvah that one has to do, or perhaps what I want to try to do is to show that this mitzvah has much more of a deeper meaning that can shed some light to the characteristics of Erev Yom Kippur. So let's begin with a source that teaches us that there's a mitzvah to eat on Yom Kippur. The pasuk in the Torah about Yom Kippur itself is a bit problematic when it comes to the date that the Torah teaches us on which we must fast. As you can see in front of you, the Gemara quotes a pasuk in Vayikra, "V'initem et nafshotechem batisha lachodesh ba'erev." That's like saying, when do we keep Sukkot? Yudalad balayla. We don't do that. We say Sukkot begins on Tetvav, and we all know that in Judaism the day begins from the night. So the Torah says on Tetvav, it's the night of Tetvav. What's this kind of awkward language of telling us that that Motzei, the 9th, Yom Kippur begins? Just say the night of the 10th. Why is the Torah mentioning the 9th? So the truth is that this is not my topic, but you should know that the Gemara as well discusses another halacha that we're all very makpid on, by the way, which is that we learn from here, perhaps, that Yom Kippur doesn't start on the 10th, but starts on the 9th, which is called Tosefet. Did someone give a shir about that just now? No. Tosefet Yom Kippurim. There's a mitzvah to add and to begin on the 9th. You'll notice, if you look at your luchot, that we bring in Yom Kippur a bit earlier, before Shkia. Kol Nidre is not supposed to be said on Yom Kippur, but rather before Yom Kippur. And many of us, I think, what we're makpid to do is to say the Shechianu right before Shkia. That's really, if the chazan is a bit too long, then you don't always get that. But you're supposed to say the Shechianu before, because the Torah is telling us that Yom Kippur should start on the 9th as if not on the 10th. And from here, by the way, begins the whole discussion, which I'm not going to go into right now, of Tosefet and Yom Tov, Tosefet Shabbat. Many people will know that there's a halach in Shulchan Aruch that you should also be Mosif Michol HaKodesh every Friday. It's not a mitzvah that you have to do. It's more like a mitzvah that if you do it, you're doing a mitzvah. Some shuls are very makpid. In Alon Shvut, where I live and I daven, so they actually play a little shtick here with it. Many shuls will do mincha 10 minutes after Lichbenchen. I know that you guys in Yerushalayim, you start Lichbenchen on Thursday night. I mean, but normal people light candles right before Shkia, and usually they'll daven 10 minutes, which is like 20, 18 minutes before Shkia. They'll daven 10 minutes before Shkia, which means that Kabbalat Shabbat in most shuls starts after Shkia. Now, if you want to Mikabel Shabbos early, you can't, because it's after Shkia. And we paskin that Kabbalat Shabbat comes in either with Mizmor Shir or with Lecha Dodi, and that's way past Shkia. So in my yeshiva, Alon Shvut, what they do is, they first of all make Mincha 5 minutes after Lichbenchen. First of all. So that when they finish Mincha, it's still before Shkia. And then after Mincha, before Kabbalat Shabbat, the whole shul sings, V'zakeni lekabel Shabbatot. So the whole shul is Mikabel Shabbos. And the whole shul is fulfilling the mitzvah of Tosefet Shabbos by doing that. Very stark, very shtick, whatever Yiddish word you want to use for that. But there is such a thing, Tosefet. And Tosefet Yom Kippurim is probably d'oraita. There's a machloket about Tosefet Shabbat, Tosefet Yom Tov. Do you have to add? Why do we add? It's a different shir, not for right now. But that is a halacha that can be learned from the language of the Torah, which is on the 9th. However, we're going to go in a different direction. And we're going to quote the Gemara in Brachot that teaches us that it is true that Yom Kippur begins on the 9th, but not from the fasting perspective, but rather from the eating. This is a famous drasha that Yom Kippur starts on the 9th. In what way? In the way that if you eat on the 9th, it's as if you are fasting. Now, can anyone really understand this drasha? What does that mean? How did it get to this drasha? What? If you eat, you're fasting. What does that even mean? So we're going to try maybe to understand a little bit, not only the reason for such a mitzvah, but perhaps even the meaning of this drasha. What is the meaning of this drasha? So, different Rishonim explain this in different ways. I want to start with the most peculiar. Is that right? Take one, take two. Peculiar. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I always apologize if I make mistakes, and I can always say I was born in Israel, brought up in Israel. I'm Israeli. Never lived in America. I lived in Canada a little bit with my parents, a little bit. Phil knows that. So I'm speaking Canadian. Exactly. If I make a mistake.
You inherited it.
Strange. Okay, it's a strange idea. Thank you. The Shibulei Aleket in source number, the third source, and the second line brings a really interesting idea. He says, "Lehotzi." You see the end of the sentence. Lehotzi miliban shel tzdokim, shemit'anim gam batshi. It's a very interesting answer. He says that the tzdokim, as we know, the cult, the sect of Jews who used to read the Torah in a fundamental way, and mamash kipshuto, they read it that you have to mitanet batshi. The Torah says you start on the 9th, so they kept Yom Kippur on the 9th and on the 10th. In order to show that we're not tzdokim, we have to eat on the 9th. Lo tzimi liban shel tzdokim. It's a very sharp, very harif kind of reason for eating on the 9th, but it really does take out the whole meaning of the eating as a mitzvah, but rather just like a response to the tzdokim. By the way, there's some other cases. Anyone know other things that we do to show that we're not tzdokim? So Mechat Shabbat we disagree with them, but what do we do? So I think that's the answer. Right? The answer is chamin. The minhag of eating hot food on Shabbat.
And candles goes against the tzdokim.
Which candles?
Shabbat candles. Because according to the tzdokim, you have to extinguish them.
Yeah, but it could be. I mean, we have machloket with the tzdokim. I'm just asking, what other cases do we have that we actually do things in a certain way, only because we want to show them that they're wrong? So we light candles for that reason? That I've never heard. Okay, maybe. Okay, maybe one. Okay, fine. I didn't know that. Thank you for teaching me that. Right. But the idea, the Bala Ma'or writes a poem the Razah, Rabbi Mizrahi Alevi, in Masechet Shabbat, in the third parak of Shabbos, he has in the middle of his commentary, he writes a poem. It goes something like this. There's no tune. Maybe someone should make a tune for it. It's like, Mi she'ochel chamin umashmin zocher leketz hayamin v'hu eino min. Ashrei hama'amin. Something like that, right? He says, if you're a believer, if you believe in Torah Shebaal Peh, you must eat hot food on Shabbat to prove that you're not a mean, to prove that you're not tzdoki. So it was like a halacha to eat hot food on Shabbat. Sorry? No, I'm saying this is bichlal all year around. All year around to eat on food at Shabbat to take out of the tzdokim opinion that you can't eat hot food on Shabbat. We're talking right now, another example, that you're supposed to eat, according to this, on the 9th to show that the tzdokim are wrong because they used to fast on the 9th. There are a few examples like this, perhaps. Also, by the way, on Yom Kippur with the Ketoret, also they used to do the whole thing with tzdokim. Anyway, the tzdokim had we don't feel this pressure today, tension, but there was a time when there was a big pressure and tension between we would call them today the Orthodox and the Karaites, and then they were called Prushim, whatever, right? So I think that's a very interesting idea. I want to continue with a beautiful chiddush of the Rambam, and then go to the main topic of this year, just to show you that many suggestions have been made why we eat on the 9th, and not all of them are so known always. Rabbi Soloveitchik explained a beautiful idea within the Rambam of why we eat Erev Yom Kippur. If you go, if you look at the Rambam on the second page, on the top, you will see that I quoted a Rambam that tells us why we keep muktzah on Shabbos. The second page. I should have. The third page. I'm sorry. The third page. Thank you. The third page. The first side of the. It's really the second page on the thing, but it's the third page on the top. Okay. Rambam Ilchot Shabbat. I apologize. I should put numbers in. I know I should. I apologize. The Rambam here tells us, "Ve'od kshivakel v'taltel kilim shemlachtan le'isur efshar shitasek ben me'at v'yavo lidei melacha." The Rambam is giving us a reason why did Chachamim make up decrees called muktzah. It's a very strange idea, by the way, and the Ravid attacks the Rambam here, because the Ravid says, Rambam, what are you doing? It's a Gemara explicitly in Eruvin that we keep muktzah because chashash shema yitaltel. You might take it out of a Reshut HaRabim, but the Rambam, for his reasons, gave 3 reasons why Chachamim made muktzah. One reason is very simple, right? If you allow yourself to move a pen on Shabbat, you might write with it. You might do melacha. What's the second reason? Ve'od mipnei shemiktzat ha'am einam balei umaniyot ela betelin kol yimehen. He says some people don't work. Not everyone works. Kagon ha'tayalim, yoshevei kranot, shekol yimehen hen shovtim mimelacha. What? How does a person who doesn't work the whole week, how does he keep Shabbat? I understand a person who's working all week, working. He stops from working. That he has showed that he is keeping Shabbat. Because it's very hard to positively do something by being passive. Megillat Ta'anit is a list of all days in Jewish history that there are Yamim Tovim. And what's the essence of them? How do you celebrate them? By not fasting. So some people ask, how do you celebrate by not fasting? What does that mean? Today's a special day. I'm not fasting. Every day we don't fast. So some people, by the way, said that proves that Jews used to fast a lot. That Jews used to fast a lot. So today you're not allowed to fast was a special day. My father told me that my great grandmother used to fast every Monday and Thursday every week. No, Bahab all year round, not just Bahab.
But they couldn't have
Bahab.
food.
So maybe they couldn't afford food. I don't know what the story was, but that's what he said. She was a very righteous woman. And she used to fast every Monday and Thursday. She used to fast. I think we have proof that people. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is it's very hard to celebrate or to make a statement about something by being passive about it. So the Rambam says, Chachamim also made muktzah because they wanted people to show in an active way that they are shovet, that they are refraining from doing melacha on Shabbat. So by changing your habits of touching things, moving things during the week, now when Shabbat comes in, there's a heker, there's a recognition that you are shovet. So even though you're being passive, there is something that can be, by refraining from what you did until now, you are showing that something has changed. Similarly, says Rav Soloveitchik, that's why there's a mitzvah to eat Erev Yom Kippur. Because how does one do the positive mitzvah of inui by not eating? Inui means, it's an act. You have to be mit'aneh. But it's very difficult because it's a passive sivui. Be passive by not eating. How does one show that he is refraining from eating if he was fasting before? So says Rav Soloveitchik, that's why the Rambam understood whether that's and the Rambam, it's beautiful because the Rambam doesn't actually say that there's a mitzvah to eat Erev Yom Kippur. The Rambam drops it. He doesn't say there's a mitzvah to eat Erev Yom Kippur. Says Rav Soloveitchik, it's because the Rambam doesn't think that it's a mitzvah per se to eat Erev Yom Kippur. It's just, as we say, it's a hechi timtze. It's just a means to show that you're fasting. Because by eating before and stopping to eat shows that you're fasting. So if there's no chiyuv to eat, you might not be showing to anyone, to yourself, or to anyone around you that you're actually fasting. So you fast in order to stop the fast. If that's really true, there's no real mitzvah to eat per se. It's just a means to show that you are fasting, which really takes away, I think, a lot of the meaning of eating on Erev Yom Kippur. However, other Rishonim brought other reasons for fasting for eating Erev Yom Kippur. And the most famous ones, going back to the first page that I gave you, is Rashi. The second source on the sheet. Rashi says the following. Ma'aleh alav katuv, we said as if he fasted 2 days. V'hachi ka'amar kra. This is what the Torah is teaching us. Says Rashi, Hachinu atzmechem batish'a lechodesh le'inui hamacharat v'areu be'enai ke'inui hayom. The focus that the word I want to focus on here is, in Rashi, is Hachinu. What's Hachinu? Prepare. Get ready. Rashi says, don't look too deep into this mitzvah of eating. The Torah is telling you to eat because it wants you to be prepared for Yom Kippur. Eat so you'll fast better. Now, my question is very simple. For that I need a tzivui. For that I need a mitzvah. Duh. When the Torah tells you there's a fast day, so everyone's going to eat before, drink before. I mean, why is that a mitzvah? It's something strange here going on here. Now, it's interesting because the Shibulei Aleket, who was a late Rishon, who quotes different opinions, who he quoted the opinion of the Tzdokim earlier in the source number 3 here, he says, Yesh lomar mipnei she'ochel yafeh be'erev Yom Kippurim u'biyom ha'kippurim mitaneh kashe lo inui yoter. It's a masochist. It's a masochist idea. He says, when people eat a lot before a fast day, they suffer a lot during the fast. Now, it sounds very terrible to say this, a very strange idea, but at least I understand why it could be a mitzvah. Because without it, I would say, listen, I know my dietitian told me to eat very lightly. No. The rabbi said you got to stuff yourself because I want you to really feel so bloated before Yom Kippur that when Yom Kippur comes, it'll be so hard to fast and there'll be a mitzvah of inui. Right? It sounds very strange. It's a very strange idea, and I'm not going to accept it right in a few minutes. But at least this solution can explain to me why it's a mitzvah, why the Torah commanding me to do something I wouldn't have done myself. And B, it at least explains the drasha. It explains the drasha. What was the drasha? If you eat on the 9th, it's as if you what? Fasted. Not fasted. What was the word? Inui. You suffered already, meaning the suffering begins on the 9th. Now, I'm not sure if I like this so much, the whole idea of this, but at least my questions that we asked before can be answered by this drasha. Now, I'm not a dietitian, and I don't know. I know that people have different minhagim what they eat before the fast, and people say don't eat too much salt, and don't eat harif, and don't eat this because meaning we know that different foods that we eat before the fast can result in having an easier fast or better fast. But what's interesting more to me is the following: what's behind this opinion? Yeah,
because bothers him all the other explanations. There's no inui.
Oh.
You're not explaining the word.
Correct. So the inui makes sense according to this, right? But
it makes
more sense, right? But what's behind this? What's the logic behind such an idea? I'll say more than that. What's a machloket between this opinion and Rashi? I think it goes it boils down to a very an ekroni machloket. What an ekroni, a principle? There's something very, very, very basic here that they are arguing upon. What does it mean when the Torah tells us, "V'nitem et nafshotechem"? What does it mean when the Torah teaches us on Yom Kippur you have to do inui? Now, the word inui can be translated in different ways. We know in modern Hebrew, la'anot someone, it means to torture. To torture someone is la'anot someone in modern Hebrew. But the word ta'anit also comes from the word inui, which means fasting, which doesn't necessarily mean torture or suffering. What does it mean, really? People like to translate it into affliction. It's like a nice politically correct word.
Deprivation.
Okay, that's a very different word than being deprived from something or suffering or torturing. I think that's the machloket. Rashi is saying, you fasting on Yom Kippur doesn't have to be hard. We don't want you to suffer. We don't want you to have pain. We want you to refrain from eating. The inui doesn't mean. Now I'll say this. I saw it in Rabbi Moshe Sternbach says it's beautiful. I asked you before. According to Rashi, why is there a mitzvah to eat? Everyone knows to prepare themselves. Says Rabbi Moshe Sternbach in Rashi. He says it's beautiful. He says that's exactly why the Torah told you to eat, because the Torah doesn't want you to think that you have to suffer. The Torah wants you to have a good meal. The Torah wants you to come into Yom Kippur relaxed, prepared, that you feel that you are ready for the fast and that you're not going to suffer, meaning it's pum fakert than the other opinion. It's telling you, I want you to eat and to drink and to rest and to be prepared in order to teach you that I don't want you to suffer. It's exactly the opposite. But the other guy says, no, I want you to suffer, because that's what the meaning of suffer. People, by the way, point out a nafkamina between both opinions. I'll give you a good nafkamina, a good difference. People today, if you go to any pharmacy, what do you see on the shelves of all the pharmacies in the past 2 days? All these pills that they're selling. Some people swear by them. Some people swear at them. They're different. They're different opinions if they work or not. But in the world of post-game, some people say, some people argue, are you allowed to take a slow releasing pill over Yom Kippur because you're not mitaneh? So I would say that the machloket that we just learned might be touching upon this question. According to the opinion that inui doesn't mean to suffer, do anything you can to make it easy.
So how do they
So take those pills. But the other guy may say, no, I want you to suffer, right? As if you're not allowed to feel good. By the way, modern post-game, even though most post-game permit these pills and allow it, some say you shouldn't. And I think that perhaps it goes back to what we just said now. Perhaps. I mean, you can argue with what I just said now, but perhaps, yes.
Yinu, it says, Yinitem et nafshotechem. It doesn't say, Yinu et atzmachem. So what?
Nefesh is, I wouldn't go into that. Nefesh, neshama, nah. It's your body. It's yourself. I don't know if I would I don't know if I would do that deal, but okay. I don't know.
You need a chassid.
Yeah, there's other inuim. For some people to daven in a chassid shtibel is inui. Anyway, each their own. But yes.
And you're not allowed to to add Inuim, that's why we leave the air conditioning on.
Nachon. So the way I saw the tshuva of the Maharshag. I never heard of him until I looked him up now. He was a rabbi, a Mudkach rabbi in Poland in the 19th century. He was called the Maharshag of Shlomo, I think Greenfield or something like that. And he has tshuvot. And I saw people quote him in this context that he comes out against people that try to add sufferings to Yom Kippur. Apparently, there were people that tried to make it. By the way, people discuss this. Should you wear shoes that today? Many people today wear very comfortable shoes that are not leather. So some people say, you shouldn't. The truth is, the Rambam seems to say that. The Rambam says you shouldn't wear something comfortable. But I do think, putting the Rambam on the side, that we get confused a little bit between Tisha B'Av here and Yom Kippur. Meaning, in Tisha B'Av there might really be a certain, the inui of Tisha B'Av might be very different than the inui of Yom Kippur. I think that's where we get a bit confused. That Tisha B'Av is a day of Avilut and a day of refraining from pleasures because we are in a tragic moment. While Yom Kippur, the refraining from these pleasures is to elevate us rather than to depress us. So I think that has to do with the different understandings of what Inui is. And as we just said, this boils down to two different explanations why there's a mitzvah to eat Erev Yom Kippur. But I think that there's a much bigger nafkamina between both opinions. I think that the nafkamina between Rashi and the other opinion that we just quoted is, how do we go to the meal itself? According to Rashi, and perhaps this other opinion, there's no real reason to make a meal Erev Yom Kippur. If the idea is to prepare yourself or to suffer yourself or whatever, then eat something before the fast or an hour before the fast just to make sure that you're not hungry. But we all know that the Minhag Yisrael is actually to make a nice meal. People wash, they have challah, they put honey on the challah, they have a chicken soup, and if you're from, you have kreplach, right? Everyone has their own. Do people eat kreplach here before? Who eats kreplach here before? Anyone? You eat kreplach?
My wife takes it, yeah.
Of course. Am I the only one that makpid? I mean, my family always has kreplach Erev Yom Kippur. Is that not an old Jewish minhag?
But also Hoshana Rabbah.
Yeah, of course. Hoshana Rabbah and Purim and Erev Yom Kippur, you have kreplach. You know why?
Why?
Because what? Nachon. The 3 times that you beat something up, right? The vidui, the Hoshanas, and the Haman, and that is mefurish in the Torah, where it says, I should turn off the tape right now, but it says, and my father used to joke about it, that it says hakeh takeh et yoshvei ha'ir. Takeh, takeh is Rashi Tevot tochal kreplach harbeh. So that's mefurish. Anyway, so people have a real meal before Yom Kippur. Now, if it's really just a means to make yourself prepared, why all the fuss? So for that, it seems that we have a whole different opinion to this whole eating Erev Yom Kippur. And this is brought down by other Rishonim and Achronim, and I think it's very well known in the name of Rabbeinu Yonah. If you look on the bottom of the page, you will see, it's also the Maharit before and the Rabbeinu Yonah, they both basically say the same thing in different ways, that what is Yom Kippur? Is Yom Kippur a sad day? We all know that it's not a sad day. We all know that there's an element even of simcha on Yom Kippur. Let's prove it, for example. Let's prove halachically how Yom Kippur is a day of simcha. Bakasha. Well, why do they prove it's simcha? I don't know if that's a simcha. We get samech, but the question is, halachically, what makes a day of simcha? Yafeh meod. An avel, we know that the Shosha Regalim cancel avelut. Why? The mitzvah of simcha on Yom Tov overrides your private avelut. What about Rosh Hashanah Kippur? There is no mitzvah of simcha, or not, on Rosh Hashanah Kippur, not Shosha Regalim. Yet we paskin that they do override Avelut. It's a whole sugya of itself why that's true, but it could be that there's a certain element of Simchat Yom Tov that does exist on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Anyone else? Other examples that we do that can prove Simcha on Yom Kippur? Birkat Kohanim. Now I know that you are all such olim, not chadashim anymore, so you're not even thinking about that. But if you remember in Chutz La'aretz, Ashkenazim amongst you guys, you don't do Birkat Kohanim unless it's a Yom Tov, correct? Why in Chutz La'aretz do we do Birkat Kohanim on Yom Tov? The Ramah says because they are days of Simcha. What about Yom Kippur? We do Birkat Kohanim Yom Kippur.
Could
Yes?
be as many as 4 times.
Yes. It could be, right? But we do on Yom Kippur,
Been there.
we not 4 times. We don't do Mincha.
Shacharis,
Shacharis, Musaf, and Ne'ilah.
Ne'ilah, Mincha.
No, Mincha we don't do. No.
1 year we did.
Okay, but that's fine. The more the merrier. Fine. But what I'm saying is that we do Birkat Kohanim on Yom Kippur, which seems to indicate again an element of Simchat Yom Tov that does exist on Yom Kippur. We light a candle before Yom Kippur, make a bracha on it, which the Gemara says is because there is a mitzvah of Kavod Yom Tov on Yom Kippur. Not Simcha, but Kavod Yom Tov. Oneg, you can't really have Oneg Yom Tov on Yom Kippur, but Kavod Yom Tov we do have. Meaning there are certain halachic factors or indications that there is still an element, halachically, an element of Simchat Yom Tov on Yom Kippur. What's missing, of course, if that's true, is the meal. We Jews don't know how to celebrate usually without food. And where is that food? So Rabbeinu Yonah says, very nice, that כי בשאר ימים טובים אנחנו קובעים סעודה לשמחת המצווה כי יגדל וישגה מאוד שכר השמחה על המצוות כמו שנאמר, אני brings a pasuk, that תחת אשר לא עבדת את השם אלוקיך בשמחה ועבודת השם has to be done בשמחה. We just said, the avodah, right? Avodat Yom Kippurim has to be done בשמחה. It's missing the food. So what do? מפני שהצום ביום הכיפורים נתחייבו לקבוע סעודה על שמחת המצווה בערב יום הכיפורים. So according to this, Yom Kippurim begins already on the 9th. Mamash. It's not Erev Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur as if begins on the 9th because the seudah that we eat on the 9th is ke'ilu the seudah of the 10th. That explains our minhag today of dressing our Yibigdei Yom Tov, sitting down to a nice meal, and having a proper 3-course meal before Yom Kippur. If the reason is just to make sure that we're not hungry, doesn't make sense. But if we want to really, as if, start Yom Kippur, now the drasha also makes more sense. The drasha is that you have to start Yom Kippur on the 9th. Yom Kippur starts on the 9th. The inui the inui involves itself in eating too. It's not just suffer. It's about celebrating too. So we already started as if on the 9th, not on the 10th. And the Maharit, by the way, the Maharit says a little bit differently. Right above the Shari Tshuva, Rabbi Yonah, the Maharit talks about the simcha, not necessarily the simcha that I spoke about now, the halachic simcha v'yom tov, but of the personal simcha that we all feel elevated on Yom Kippur of HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgiving our sins. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgives our sins, we, I think, very naturally feel this kind of elevation, this kind of cleanliness before God, that we stand before God, and that itself has an element of simcha. Says the Maharit, we celebrate that already on the 9th before. And to really show you this, how true this is, if you go to the Aruch HaShulchan on the second page, ולכן מצווה לאכול ולשתות בערב יום הכיפורים ולשמוח בו ויהיה לבבינו בטוח. Meaning here he adds a third thing. He says it's more than just celebrating the Yom Kippur what's going to happen, but rather shows some kind of bitachon, some kind of assurance that Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to forgive us and we're going to have a good year. Yalenu l'tova u'livracha שהקדוש ברוך הוא ימחול עוונותינו ויחתום עלינו שנה טובה ומבורכת ואוכלים דגים ובשר כמו ביום טוב. ממש, this is exactly our minhag to make it into a Yom Tov, which means that it's almost a Yom Tov. Erev Yom Kippur is a mini Yom Tov. It's not Yom Tov mamash like a real Yom Tov, but it's a ke'ilu Yom Tov, like a Yom Tov. V'nira. Oh, so here it comes up an interesting question. If it's really a Yom Tov, if it's really a Yom Tov itself, so we can ask a few questions. Why don't we eat the night before? Is there a mitzvah to eat already tonight? Or only tomorrow morning? If it's a Yom Tov, if the 9th is a Yom Tov, so we should eat tonight. So it's a good chumrah for all of you who want to have can't go wrong, to eat a good meal tonight. Al tzad that it may be, the Reb Chaim used to have these jokes, not jokes. I mean, they used to say that Reb Chaim, they used to say to him, Reb Chaim, you're always machmir. Anything you're makel with, makel. He said, so his famous kula was, some people say you shouldn't learn Erev Tisha B'Av. On makel you can learn Erev Tisha B'Av. Right? Those kind of kula. So people use sometimes kulas that they like, chumrah that they like. This is a chumrah you can eat tonight. But the Aruch HaShulchan says, however, v'nireh dan mitzvah eina ele bayom v'lo balayla shelefanea. Meaning he says, don't think that because it's a Yom Tov, the mitzvah starts tonight. Kivan shatam k'lei sheich chazak litanot ein ze ele bayom v'lo balayla. He says, at the end of the day, it's also to give you, mostly to give you strength, and then really you have to focus on it tomorrow and not tonight. Yes?
What does the Mefarshim do with the continuation of that chasur? וניצב את נפשכם בתשעה בחודש בערב, מערב עד ערב, תשבתו שבתכם.
So the inui itself, the fasting itself, only begins me'erev. Right? The fasting. So then the question is, why mention the 9th? Because the 9th is not Erev.
So which Erev we talking about?
No, so after the word the 9th, me'erev of the 10th, then you're supposed to fast, but something starts on the 9th. That's the drasha. Now, yes, Fakasha.
Are you only happy with the word inui, with this one versus the shibboleth leket, or?
I agree that the shibboleth leket is better pshat, but I find it very hard to accept it. This pshat could explain it, not maybe as well, but can still explain that. Again, inui here, if we understand it, doesn't mean suffering. It means more inui of elevation, of kind of chassidut, prishut, something in a positive more way. Then I can understand it a bit better. Meaning, it could be that that's where it begins. But I agree with you that the other perush is a little bit better. But we can think about it. I agree with you. It's something to think about.
And why aren't we being more direct? Why wasn't the Torah more direct?
Well, that you can say about many things. Right? That's a little bit hard.
The next question.
Yeah, ayin tachet ayin is also not direct. But you're right. Right. No, you're right. It's a good question. But
yeah.
Two more things I want to point out. If you look at the Shulchan Aruch Harav, under the Aruch HaShulchan we just read, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, really I think goes one step further and concludes what I said in the beginning of the shir. I spoke about how I would like to prove that the mitzvah of eating tomorrow is not just a mitzvah that by itself, but rather it really gives the whole characteristics of the day tomorrow. I think is proven in his words by saying Af papi shemina din erev yom kippurim mutar be'esped she'no yom tov klal ve'en bo ma'ala el shemitzvah le'echol. The only mitzvah is to eat tomorrow, and theoretically, if someone dies and is buried tomorrow, we are permitted to eulogize. It's not a Yom Tov. However, he says, Mikol Makom Noagim Lasoto Yom Tov. Ve'ein Maspidim Bo. The minhag is not to eulogize tomorrow. Ve'chen en Rutzidu Gadin. Ve'chen ein Omrim Bo Tachanun. Tomorrow. And that's why we also don't say a lot of Slichas tomorrow. Because there is a certain element of Yom Tov tomorrow, which can be understood based on what we just said now, that the eating is really a symbol of the simcha of Yom Kippur that we celebrate on Erev Yom Kippur. So I think that proves that tomorrow is a mini Yom Tov. Lastly, I just want to end. זה בסדר, דניאל, שאני מסיים 3-4 דקות, זה טוב? 5 דקות? עד 11:30 יש לי, נכון? בסדר. אני כבר לא זוכר, סליחה, לא הייתי פה הרבה זמן, סליחה. ממש the last source is a beautiful source. The last source on the sheet, a tshuva of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. You know, a few years ago, in the middle of my Sudam Seket, I got a phone call from I'll try to hide you don't know, there's no way you can ever know who the person is. So I got a shiloh from someone that there was a person who had some eating disorders, and the dietitian was adamant that this young person, must eat kavua meals, and no, the whole year. And then the parents suddenly thought about this Erev Yom Kippur, that the dietitian told this young person that they must continue eating set meals on Yom Kippur. Now, this person, I was told, they can refrain 24 hours without eating, but the problem is if the psychological idea of eating set meals is so important that they don't want to break that pattern. So halachically, what do you do? Sorry? Yeah, it's a weird chol. You understand why? Because it's a chol that really can fast, right? Theoretically, right? Anyway, we pass on that she or he, whatever it is right now, what it was, they could eat and continue they could eat, and it was all whatever. But this question, a similar question, came up a few hundred years ago to Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Rabbi Akiva Eiger, one of the greatest poskim of the 18th century, was asked the following: Odot bito acholanit, shekol ochel mezikla. I mean, I don't know. Imagine 18th century doctors is not exactly. I don't know what they knew then, but these doctors decided, for whatever reason, they decided is that this young girl has to continuously fast all her life. I mean, she barely could eat. She had to take only medicine. She lived on medicines. Whatever. I don't know what that means, but that's what it says, right? It says, Kama shavuot kol michiyata misamei trufa. She was living on medicines and not food. So this young lady read, like we just read the Shulchan Aruch, which says you're supposed to have a meal Erev Yom Kippur. And she said, Abba, I want to do the mitzvah of eating Erev Yom Kippur. And the father said, no, but you can't. The doctor says you're not allowed to eat. And she said, it was kind of the opposite, right? She said, I want to eat, but the doctor said you can eat. What should we do? They asked Rabbi Akiva Eiger. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger, of course, it's not even a question. He says, what's the question? You listen to the doctors. If it's dangerous, you eat or you don't eat based upon the doctors. Simple, right? And by the way, what I like it is he says, "Chalila v'chalila lechol, v'lasher kotev huma alato she'im ulumada v'gam chereda l'dvar elokim." You say your daughter is very frum and she's very, very makpid. Uvekoshi tishmalo, she won't listen to you. Atzati, take a gabbai or two gabbais, and say that I, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, told her she must listen to the doctors. Right? Very interesting. How he says, make sure that you go and you tell her that I, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, decreed upon her that she must listen to the doctors. I was once told about a certain an elderly gentleman who the doctor told him that he mustn't fast Yom Kippur for health reasons. And he said, no way, no way. I'm not that sick. I can do it. And the doctor went to the rabbi of the shul and begged him to help him to convince this guy. And the guy said to the rabbi, I'm not. Listen, I'm whatever I am age, and I always fasted, and I'm not. And the rabbi said, fine, but you're not getting an aliyah this year in Yom Kippur if you fast. He said, why not? So the rabbi says, because I only give Jews aliyahs who worship Akadosh Baruch Hu, and not Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah says, yeah, you worship Yom Kippur, not Hashem. It's Yom Kippur, we're not worshiping Yom Kippur, we're worshiping Akadosh Baruch Hu, right? So tell this young lady, says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, that I ruled. I love it because I think something very humane about Rabbi Akiva Eiger, who's not just giving a psak, but like understanding the situation here. But then he goes on and says, but you know what? I just thought about this. Rabbi Akiva Eiger says, are women chayiv to eat Erev Yom Kippur or not? And he says it could be dependent upon what we just discussed today. It says, women are usually patur from time-bound mitzvot. Is eating Erev Yom Kippur a time-bound mitzvah? And if it is, women would be exempt. But if you say it's a preparation for Yom Kippur to make you fast better, so then women who have to fast also have to eat. Now this question has other ramifications. What happens really about a person who is sick and is not going to fast on Yom Kippur? Do they have a mitzvah to eat? So if you say it's a Yom Tov of itself, like we just proved it's a Yom Tov itself, then you say a sick person should eat. A woman, maybe not, because time-bound mitzvah. But if it's a preparation for Yom Kippur, then the person who is not fasting doesn't have to eat. But a woman should, right? So two nafkaminas who are exactly the opposite based upon the two different reasons that we just gave. And that's what Rabbi Kiva Eger talks about. He says, I never thought about this question until this question came up, whether or not really the reasons for why we eat on Erev Yom Kippur can create interesting nafkaminas in different situations regarding the chiyuv to eat. The bottom line is, the minhag is to not only to eat, but to make a good meal, a healthy meal, a festival meal, and to do it b'tzra shel chag, a little yom tov, and to be'emet, to have a suda mitoch simcha, on the simcha of Yom Kippur being a day of simcha, a day that we go in, B'ezrat Hashem, this year, hopefully better than last year, with a feeling that Baruch Hu is going to forgive His people and bless us all to a good year full of health, and the captives returning, and the chayalim returning, and peace on Israel, B'ezrat Hashem, Shana Tova, and Gmar Chatima Tova. Some people say yes. Yeah, I saw that people discuss it. Some people say, yeah. Some people have a minute like that.
By the way, there is Shabbat Shabbaton. Some people say the Shavuos of Yom Kippur is Yiditah.
Right.
So therefore you have to eat.
The Rav says that. Yeah.
The other one, by the way, another proof of why Erev Yom Kippur is not a full holiday is because there are 3 exceptions to the rule. There are 4 and 9.